Welcome to the Belief Breakthrough Show, where we believe that you can achieve the life you dream of simply through shifting your perspective and breaking through your limiting beliefs. With your host, Tina Encarnacion, the author of Stuck in the Fire, a story of resilience, trauma and abuse coach, an energy healer, and Reiki master. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of the Belief Breakthrough Show. I am your host, Tina Encarnacion, and we are so blessed with Vivian Cobb today. She is blessing us with her presence. She is an amazing female. She has such strength and power behind her, and she is going to shower us with her experiences and her expertise and her knowledge, and we get to learn from her today. And so please get comfortable, grab a seat, grab a drink, and get ready to listen to what she has to share with us. She is an emotional health coach. Who doesn't need some emotional coaching? Let me tell you, I needed some this last week for sure. So with that being said, Vivian, can you please tell us why you have come into the realm of emotional coaching and why it has become your passion?
I am thrilled to be here, and I am thrilled to tell you all about that as well. I lost my husband about 9 years ago. It was a second marriage. We had been together about 10 years. When I married him, he was a very wealthy man. When he died, he had managed to invest all his money in Florida real estate, and the market tanked. And so after he died, I found out that my house was in foreclosure, that I had no money. And so I had a compounding effect of grief. I not only lost the love of my life, literally, but I lost my lifestyle and my money and all the worldly things that we need to survive. So it was a big hit. And I had to do a lot of reckoning with myself. I went from not having to work to having to work overnight and try and get food on the table. It was a very difficult, stressful time, as you can imagine. But in that process, I came to realize how important going through my emotions, and I had a lot of grief. I had compound grief, and going through my emotions was paramount to my actually being able to heal and move forward. I got stuck in anger, as you can imagine. I was a little bit ticked that I was left in that position. And it took me a long time to really come to terms with the fact that I had to forgive not only him, which was secondary to actually having to forgive myself, because I let a lot of things slide, and I should have asked more questions, and I could have done things differently that would not have left me in that position, or maybe not as badly. So that whole experience of being angry, but still loving him and missing him, all the things that I had to feel sort of simultaneously, I realized, wow, when I actually take the time to feel all my feelings instead of running from them or pretending like they're not there, or that, things should have been different, and making excuses and all the things that we do emotionally, when I actually took the time to look at them, embrace them, process them, that's when I realized, wow, I feel so much better. And that's when I got to the point where I could move forward in my life. It took years. And so the other thing I realized during that time is I didn't have a whole lot of support. It's amazing during events like divorce or death, you lose friends that you can't believe you've lost. People can't deal really with what you're going through, because what you're going through is actually their worst nightmare, and they don't want to have to look at their own feelings around it. So they abandon the relationship. So I had to go through a lot of that as well. And it made me realize that it wasn't really about me. I took it very personally. I was like, well, what did I do? I just, had this catastrophe happen to me and now my friends are bailing. But I realized it was about them and them not being able to go through their emotions and embrace their emotions around their own fears. So I felt very unsupported in some ways. I mean, I had my tried and true friends, and of course, they're the ones that held me up through the whole thing. But then I thought, I want to be there for other people who are going through this, and knowing that there are people out there that know what they're going through, can support them in what they're going through. And that's when I became really passionate about being an emotional health coach and helping other people go through the same thing that I went through, and actually being there for them, because I felt so isolated. I felt so alone in my journey, and I don't want other people to have to do that. So that's why I'm here today.
What an amazing story. I also have gone through the compounded anger and frustration and feelings. I ran from my emotions my entire life until they caught up to me. At 18, I was diagnosed with Echolasia, which is an esophageal condition. And I had no clue. They don't know a cause. It's not hereditary. It's not genetic. They have no clue what causes it. But I've actually become an energetic healer now. And so I've learned energy and chakras and meridians and all of that stuff. And so what I learned is when you stuff your feelings and your emotions and you swallow them, they get stuck in your throat. And so for 18 years, I couldn't express my emotions. And then all of a sudden my esophagus closed up. And so for me, that's the connection for me. And so having to heal myself, I had to go through those compounded layers of grief and anger and mistrust. And honestly, I feel like I thought I understood them. And maybe you went through this too. I got to a point where I was like, okay, I understand everything. I see everything for what it is. This is the reality. This is the truth of it. And I'm going to speak my truth. And I spoke in anger about my parents and my family, because for 18 years I felt suppressed. And so I became very angry, and I was like, you're not going to suppress me anymore. I'm going to speak out, and this is my truth, and I'm going to stand firm, and I'm going to heal myself. But now that I've done that, and they've come back and they said, hey, you really hurt me. And so now I'm feeling even more emotions, and now I'm going, okay, well, I have to go back and look at this. And now I'm coming at it from a different angle, right? Because now it's another layer of healing. It's a layer of emotion. It's another layer of digging in and trying to understand it. And now going, okay, yeah, I was really hurt, and that's how I felt then. But now I see it in this light, and now I can come at it less out of anger, more out of compassion.
Right.
Like, wow, you guys were really hurting. You guys, that really sucked that happened to you. And so have you gone through that? You got into a little bit, but have you gone back and gone, well, I'm really angry, but maybe it shouldn't come out this way. Maybe it's not really anger. Maybe that was a layer of it, but now there's more layers coming out from the same wound.
Yeah, absolutely true. I couldn't agree with you more, because, we've heard the analogy of the onion peeling back, and you peel back one layer and then boom, there's a whole other set of new emotions around that. And no, absolutely. Absolutely. I started out very angry. It's kind of like the different stages of grief. There's the, the denial and all that kind of thing. And grief is not only about losing a person. It's about losing, your business or your job or your lifestyle or your finances. I mean, there's a lot of things that we lose.
And the what ifs.
Yeah. And now, especially in our environment right now, we're surrounded by loss, and it's probably the most biggest group humanity lot. We don't have our freedom to just run to the bar and have a drink with our friend, or or go to the grocery store, and going to the grocery store is such a strange experience now. Everybody's got a mask on. You can't smile at people. There's just loss all around us. And it's really important to kind of take stock of how we feel about all that, so that because the people who are lashing out are the people who are not looking at how they're feeling about it. So they're throwing it out there and being angry and ugly to other people. And that's kind of what you were saying. You kind of started out in that mode of anger, and I'm going to say what I want. And I'm going to do what I want. And I don't care how you feel. And, it's all about me, and I'm pissed off, and I get to say what I think. And yes, that's okay, but you do have to be really careful about hurting other people. And so that's why I try to deal with that whole anger thing. There's exercises you can do so that you're not putting it out and hurting other people, because then, like you said, that just opens a whole new can of worms and a whole new set of having to deal
Absolutely.
with it. And then so absolutely, I totally understand what you're saying, and it has to. It's a process. It is definitely a process.
Definitely.
And if you can, my goal is to help people do it as healthily as possible.
That's what I was just going to say, peeling that layer back, layer by layer, because you can't take a whole bite of the onion. That's too powerful, right? It's too much to process. All of your senses get overwhelmed. So you really, truly do need to peel that layer back, layer by layer. And then also not just like dig in and go, okay, I got through that. Now let me jump into the next one. Like once you process one of the layers of emotion, you need to give yourself time to rest and celebrate the fact that you got through that before diving into the next one.
Boy, you are because there. Yeah.
It can be so overwhelming. It can be so overwhelming. Like I got to a point where I was like, okay, I know that I have all these emotional wounds that I need to heal, because I've been through a lot. At 18, I was diagnosed with an incurable illness. At 24, I got into an abusive relationship. At 25, I lost my daughter. Like I've been through quite a bit. And so the emotions, like I didn't have time to process one death after the next, after the next. After I lost my daughter, 3 months later, my grandfather died. 3 months after him, my mother-in-law died. Like there was just a lot of loss and grief and process, and that just piles on the emotion, right? And it got to that point where my body just shut down. It was like, you're not processing anything. The day after my daughter died, I went back to work. Like I didn't process. I was just like, I'm just going to power through it. Not going to feel anything, right? And your body gets to a point where it's like, no, we're dealing with this now. It's too much, right? And so you're right. You do have to deal with it in a healthy manner. But what does healthy look like? Because healthy is different for everybody, right? And so I got to that point where I was like, I need to heal. I'm going to do it all. I'm going to do everything at once. And that didn't work either, right? So what are the tools that you teach? How do you teach people? Like, what does healthy look like?
Well, you're right. Your emotions will hunt you down, and they don't go away. You might can suppress them. You might can numb them. But most people don't deal with how they feel. And like you said, that they are busy all the time, or they exercise all the time, or they drink too much, or they do drugs, or whatever they need to do to numb their pain. Because another aspect is that we are in a society that tells us to numb our pain. That's what we are taught. And we're supposed to be happy all the time. I mean, look at Facebook. We see everybody's, highlights.
Fake life.
And we think that that's the way life is supposed to be. And that is so not what life is. We're supposed to have all of it. We're supposed to have the good and the bad, because we wouldn't be complete. And we can't feel the happiness without the sadness. I mean, think about it. If you can't have a good cry, then you're not going to have a good laugh. And it's just the way our universe is built. Dark, light, just name it. Everything has an opposite, right? So to pretend like the bad feelings aren't there and try and squelch down the bad feelings, you're squelching down the good ones too. So you have to bring them all forth. So that's first thing, is to teach people how to just look at the reality of the situation, and that it's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be happy. I mean, some people are guilty about being happy, for goodness sakes. You know what I mean? So I have to teach them this is all good. All of it, even the bad stuff is good because you need all of it to experience all of it. So if I can get that mindset, and that right there will alleviate a lot of fear, because people are afraid to feel, because they don't, like you said, it's overwhelming. They don't know what to do with all those feelings. And it will shut you down for absolutely sure. But guess what? If you process, then you will come back. It's not going to kill you. Although some people think my emotions are literally going to kill me if I feel them. So I'll do anything I can not to. And if I can get past that, then we can start doing the exercises. Like, for example, with anger, you can let it out of your body in healthy ways. Anger is actually a great motivator. Have you ever been like really pissed off and you get so much done? You're like, wow, you go into ninja mode almost, and you're like, I can, If you can learn to harness your anger in a positive way to help propel you forward. So I have exercises for that, and, but a very common one, you get with tennis racket and you whack the heck out of a pillow, but that helps get it out of your body. And some people feel really silly doing that, but once they do it, they are like, ooh, this kind of feels good, because it is a release. And that's why we have rage rooms now.
I was just going to mention that. I was just going to say, screaming, yelling, screaming, like letting your vocal cords out. It actually releases the energetic negativity of anger.
Absolutely.
It's amazing how just screaming your head off allows you to feel better afterward. You're like, oh my gosh.
It's absolutely true. And those are all healthy things that you don't hurt anybody else by doing that. Now, you might feel silly and embarrassed at first, but you're by yourself or with your coach. And, once you get past that, then, and I also am a huge advocate of crying. I mean, look at children. Oh my gosh, they've got it down. And we forget, we're told, don't you dare cry, boys don't cry, or all that crap. And crying is one of the most natural, beautiful things that our body allows us to get rid of our sorrow and cleanse our souls with our tears. So I'm a huge advocate of crying. And as you mentioned, and I mean wailing, so including the vocal with it. People who have sudden, like they find out somebody's died or they watch somebody die suddenly, that's the automatic response, is to scream and cry. And to suppress that is just so bad for you. So yeah, those are great examples.
Absolutely. I can tell you, I cry all the freaking time. I'm a crier. I got written up at work for crying too much. They said I was overly emotional. I literally got written up. So yeah, I am a fan for crying. When I get angry, like when someone triggers me, and I when you get so angry, you don't have words to speak.
Yes.
I mean, like my tears just flow. And it drives my boss insane. He'll say something that like really crushes me, and I'll just start crying. And he's like, stop crying. Stop. I was like, I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm crying because I'm pissed.
Right.
Just let me cry. I'll be over it in a few minutes. I'm like, just leave me alone.
But see, that's my point. He can't deal with his emotions around seeing you cry. He has his own stuff going on. And that's what I teach, is that humans are emotional beings, and we relate to each other on an emotional level. And that's why we like to listen to each other's stories, because that's what bonds us. Our commonality, we've both been through this together, and we can talk about it, and that bonds us. And so, and it affects exactly how we look at the world and how we deal with each other. And if you're not in tune with your own emotions and you haven't learned that it's okay for somebody to cry, even if they're angry or whatever, just give them 5 minutes to pull themselves together and not judge them, not try to rescue them. Just let it be. Just let that moment happen, because to me, that's what's supposed to happen. That is the natural order of things. We have screwed that up so badly in our society. It's just mind-boggling.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, with COVID, everyone's so scared. I think that we need to address fear here too. We've addressed anger.
Yeah.
But right now, our fear is just spewing out of everyone's pores right now.
Yeah.
People they don't know what to believe. They don't know what to think. They don't know how to process. And fear is literally taking over everyone's life right now.
Right.
And so when you come into fear, that brings up anger, that brings up sadness, that brings up despair, depression, anxiety, like that, everything. I feel like fear is like the trigger of all.
Yeah. Fear is huge. Absolutely huge.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It'll paralyze you.
Yeah.
So how do you help your clients work through the fear? Because I think even fear will stop you from going into that emotional healing mode.
Absolutely. And there is a great deal of fear right now. And you're right. It's the number one thing that shuts us down. And it's a very basic response. It's the fight or flight. Everybody wants to run away. We all want to go find an island somewhere and a hut and just disappear. But we can't do that. So we do. We're forced to process or fight, which we talked about. People are lashing out at the grocery store, people and the clerks and the, throwing stuff at people. I mean, it's just so sad. But that's the fight or flight, and they're fighting. They're fighting against their own feelings and their own fear. But again, it's all about taking stock and realizing and being. It takes mindfulness and consciousness constantly to be in touch with what's going on inside of you, and not to spiral out of control. And not to knee-jerk reaction. And we're taught that, like you said, with your past, you let it all bottle up. You didn't know what to do with it for 18 years, and it literally, shut your throat down. And I've met people who literally can't scream. They don't know how to scream because of the same thing. It's just all stuck right here. Mm-hmm. But with fear, we have to take stock of, what am I feeling right now? And do I really want to lash out at this person who's done absolutely nothing to me? It's about being conscious. And a lot of people are not, most, I hate to say it, but most people are just not conscious, and they're just lashing out. And it's fear. And it's a huge problem right now.
Let's dive into that being conscious, because so many people don't understand what that means. They think, well, I'm awake, so I'm conscious. And that's not what we're talking about. It goes deeper than that. Most people, I like to say, live with their heads in the clouds. They're so busy on their devices. They're so busy trying to get people to like them or comment on them or notice them. Everyone in this world wants to be seen. Because because everyone's too busy to see anyone else, right? So everyone just wants to be seen, but they're too busy to see anybody else. So being conscious is coming into your body, putting that screen down, being present in your mind, like turning off that voice that's spinning in circles and actually going and dropping into your heart. I like to say it's going from the mind into the heart. And once you leave from your heart, you can change the world. But when you're living up here, you can't. You cannot be conscious when you're in your head. You need to drop down into your heart to be conscious. And so, how do you help clients to understand what being conscious means, how to be present within their body.
Right. And, again, lots of exercises for that. There's, I think our world is in a state of awakening, which I'm very excited about. And
me too.
There's, so much more about meditation and being still. Being conscious takes, like you said, being still. And that means putting everything down, shutting everything off. And it doesn't have to be an all day thing. It can be a 5 or 10 minute thing, but just be aware of your own breathing and taking deep breaths and rhythmically just slowing everything down. Just taking 3 deep breaths slows your heartbeat down immensely. There are so many very minute yet extremely effective things you can do to bring yourself to consciousness, like planting your feet on the floor. Take your shoes off and put your feet on the floor so you feel the ground and you feel grounded. And it just takes a few minutes. And you're right. It is about getting out of your head and going down to your heart and remembering your humanity. I mean, hello. Don't yell at another person who's doing their job because you're afraid of how the world is right now. I mean, if that just sounds screwed up, and it is in a way, it's like, wait a second, remember your humanity, remember your kindness. And this is your fear, and you need to take responsibility for your own fear. And you need to learn to calm yourself down. And there are lots of techniques to do that. So you're right. It's about being conscious in our own bodies and in our own hearts.
Yeah. I think that's a message that I try to push constantly is drop out of your head, drop down to your heart, and live from your heart center. Because when you're living from your heart center, you're not going to be able to maliciously hurt anyone else from your heart center, because your heart center is your love chakra. So if you're leading with love, then pain and negativity isn't there. Right. And so if this world can awaken to that, to awaken to the energy within their bodies, rather than just saying, I'm a physical being, but to understand they're emotional and energetic beings, and allow that energetic energy to come out and lead their lives rather than the physical flesh and blood.
Right.
Then this world is going to change. And I do agree with you. I believe we're at a point of awakening. And I think that by the end of this year, we'll probably be there. This 2020 has sucked for the entire world. It's not a US thing. It's an entire world thing. But I think it's because the energy is shifting. The energy of the world is literally shaking up and saying, I am done being abused. I am done being mistreated. I am done being ignored. It is time to wake up, and it is time to lead with your heart.
I agree.
So I really feel like that's the shift.
I couldn't agree with you more. I don't know if you know, I got COVID back in March, and I was hospitalized and I didn't get ventilated, thank goodness. But and when I was really in the sickest part, where I was just, hanging on, I think, I got that message. I definitely got that message that it's all about love. And I've been spreading that message. I mean, I knew it before, but now it was just like in my face. It's about love. It's about loving each other. It's about taking care of each other. And I think a lot of people have looked at this experience as being a wake-up call, as being a huge shift. And we just have to teach the ones that aren't quite getting it yet with our messages and our coaching and our, and you're right, the energy work that's going on now, the vibrational work that's going on now, whatever you want to call it, there is definitely awakening going on. And I feel it, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it.
Yeah. COVID, although it has been really hard on this world, it has been a blessing.
I think so.
Because, like you mentioned before, is you have to be quiet and still. And COVID has forced us to be quiet and still. Mm-hmm. We cannot leave our house. We can't go out for a drink with our friends. We have to be, quiet and still. And we're stuck. We're not allowed to go anywhere legally, right? So we're stuck here to sit with ourselves and to kind of look at ourselves in the mirror and go, what am I running from? Because I can't run anymore. There's nowhere else to go. I've got to deal with this right here. And that's what's forcing the awakening, right? Mm-hmm. You're also stuck at home with your loved ones, with your family. Some people can't stand their family, but it's forcing you to go, okay, what do I not like about you? Why do you light me up? Why do you frustrate me? I'm stuck with you for 12 months. So let's figure this out. Right? And so I look at so many people that are just like, COVID's horrible, da da da. And I'm like, I'm enjoying it. I was forced to stay at home for 90 days with my husband and kids for 24 hours a day. Couldn't leave them. Like, I got to know my family on a deeper level than I think I ever would have been any other way.
Exactly.
So blessed, right?
And it's really sad that people who have not taken this opportunity and they're just projecting outward, continuing by blaming the government and blaming, my rights are being taken away. And, and instead of, like you said, taking this time to really just, and it is such an incredible opportunity that we would not have gotten in our lifetime if this hadn't happened. We were all so busy with our faces and our devices, like you said earlier, not paying attention to anything. And now we're having to pay attention to everything. And absolutely. I just think it is just such a blessing. It really is. If you can look at it that way, if you can really stop criticizing everything and just take a look to say, hey, this is a great time for me to think about what I need to think about and what's really important here. And we certainly need each other. We found that out, right? We need connection. We got, and we're herd animals. We're not meant to be isolated or alone. And that has really been driven home, right? And so if we have to be connected, then we have to be more tolerant of each other. And this is a lesson in that we absolutely have to embrace each other on an emotional level and learn to love and be tolerant and all the things, because we do need connection. And that's my hope. I mean, I hope maybe it's pie in the sky. I don't know. But I feel like there are a lot of people out there who feel that way too.
Absolutely. I do. I am so excited to see what 2021 brings us, because I really feel like by 2021, the awakening will have happened. I feel like people are starting to open up. And I feel like when the world started to open up early, people weren't there yet. They hadn't quite gotten it. And so it shut back down because the earth was like, oh, no. You didn't get it. Let's go back in. Let's go deeper. Right. And I feel like that's really what 2021 is going to be, where people are coming out of their cocoons and going, I get it now. Because we got to a really toxic place in this world.
Yeah, we did.
We're coming out of it. Yeah. Everyone was offended by everyone. And everyone hated everyone. But I think that's changing. We're embracing now.
And I love that piece of it. I really do. I'm very hopeful.
Yeah.
And also, also the global warming and all that, all the things we said, we could never do that. We could never stop driving all our cars. And guess what? We stopped driving all our cars and the wet and the skies got better. So, I think it was also a lesson in, we can do this. We can make a change. We're not beyond hope. So
absolutely. Yeah. Definitely. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. It was a great conversation. So much learned.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
I am on, my website is, I'm just about to change the domain name. So I'm going to give the new one. It's Emotional Safe Haven, emotionalsafehaven.com. And you'll find my website there and information about me. And if you want to do coaching with me, great. So that's where you find me.
Awesome.
Yep.
So you guys, if you want a little bit of Vivian in your life, go ahead to emotionalsafehaven.com and hook up with her. She is extremely knowledgeable. As you can see, she's got a great heart and a beautiful energy. And that's where you can find her. The website will be down below in the comments. If you forget what it is, you want to come back, it'll be down below. And thank you for tuning in. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe now so that you can see all of the other episodes coming out. We go live every Monday and Wednesday evening at 6 p.m.